This is Talk Star Wars, the official podcast at talkstarwars.co.uk. Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Star Wars. I'm Mark.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Paul.
And there's no Stephen this week. He had to work, unfortunately, which is a little bit pants.
Comment.
Is that what he's doing?
No comment. Yeah, well, that's what he told me. It might not be true. He said, I have to put clothing on. I take it that means he's going to work with humans.
Somewhere 10 towns over, Wombat sneezed.
Yeah, and he had to put his cape on and go and solve it. He had to go and whittle it.
He can't use a cape on. That's a cruelty.
Oh, dear. All right, episode 81. We are going to proceed as we usually do and just clatter through some Star Wars talk. But before we do get started this evening, we want to say some thank yous. So a big thank you to our newest VIP, Jared McIntyre, our second Jared, which I think is amazing. We're just populating the VIP group with clones. He joined us today, so thank you, Jared. He's in the Facebook group already. Seems to be having a lot of fun in there.
Another good Star Wars name.
Another good one, yes. And a huge thank you to Jason Winkworth, who we know as Jay, in the group for upgrading his sponsorship this month. It's extremely generous of you. So thank you very much, sir. It's a trend I like. Also a trend I like are reviews, and we have 3 5-star reviews this week, which means we get to take one each.
I'll do the one on the bottom.
You did the one on the right.
I'll do that one.
Don't forget, yeah, Rob, you can do that.
I'll do the right. I'll do the long one.
All right, I'll do the little one at the bottom. Ooh. Don't forget, you can take advantage of our Ron Burgundy. We should not be reading jokes before we start the show, shall we? Don't forget, you can take advantage of our Ron Burgundy policy. That means whatever you write in a 5-star review, we will read verbatim. So if you want to promote a podcast or a blog, that's where to do it. There's only one rule: keep it clean. And someone has taken advantage of that this week, I'm pleased to see. So, Paul, would you like to take our first 5-star review this week?
Excuse me. Yeah. Right. And there's no name on top of it, so I'll wait until they get to the end before I describe who it's from. It just says newly discovered, and now I just can't get enough. Oh, my. I've only started listening in the last couple of weeks, but I've already worked my way back from episode 79 to 63. It's so good that I'll probably check out the first episode now and work my way back through in the correct order. I'm a lady. I'm a lady of a certain age, old enough to have taken my younger brother to see Star Wars at the flicks in 1978. This is the correct age band.
Yes, man.
So I'm an OT devotee, and it's nice to listen to people I can relate to. That being said, the gents on the podcast really know their stuff, and are obviously fans of all things Star Wars, and are so very warm and welcoming that I'm certain any Star Wars fan will find the show interesting, entertaining, and informative. By Trisha. Is that? I'm assuming that's C.
C, I think, yeah.
Might be C. So. I'd apologise if we're getting your name wrong, but Patricia She, and yeah, she's a local. Yay, yes. She's from UK. So thank you very much indeed.
I was so thrilled to get this review through this week because obviously it's someone in our generation and a lady in our generation who's a Star Wars fan. Bang on, and such lovely comments about us as well, and the fact that we're warm and welcoming.
I don't know if you're included in them, Mark.
Probably not, to be fair. But at least I'm not the sweary one out of the bunch.
No,
it's a very lovely review, Tricia. Thank you so much for the kind words.
Yeah, very nice.
Forgive us for the early episodes. We knew not what we were doing.
I wasn't involved, so read into that what you will.
No, neither of you chaps were involved right at the very start. In fact, the early ones, I think, actually, Paul, you were, because they were. It was material I stole from Movie Geeks Film News. Oh. So yeah, you were there right at the beginning. But don't hold that against us. All right, we've got another big fat 5-star review on the right there. Rob, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So this is from, shall I read it first? Yeah. Great Big Walking Carpet from the UK. And they write, it's so good it's got cold heat. The best podcast I've heard this side of the Outer Rim. You know you enjoy something when it's so sweet it tastes bitter. It's that good. You know when something is so light it seems dark. You must know that. It's like when something is so hot it's cold. I mean, that makes perfect sense, right? I don't sound like a mental at all, do I? It's like when you bite into a banana and it tastes like Marmite. These guys really know their stuff, and they even invite Steve along.
Poor Steve.
He loves Avatar, but they still let him talk sometimes. Each week, plot holes are examined deeply and then thoroughly filled. Oh my. If you have a question, you guys would love you to give them one. Oh my. There is a weekly poll they all like to work on. Oh my.
Who's this from?
The first time I came across these guys, oh my. I had such a smile on my face. I knew they'd have me again and again. Oh, I need a rest. As they download weekly on my device. There are several other podcasts you can listen to. The Dark Side is a King Brilliant laugh. TSW Comics is the standout show, but for some reason isn't mentioned much. We had to get an extra dose of Robness, on his Toy Box podcast. Guests get to join in the roundtable as well. As for the brilliant YouTube channel, there's even more great content. Vegans rule.
Oh dear!
I think this is paid for by Big Steve.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. That was genius. Thank you for that. Oh, that's really. I'm not going to be able to go on.
I need to sit down
and to smoke. Apparently, so many innuendos.
I can't sit down.
All right, we got another. Really not that one wasn't genuine, but I do think that may have been played a little bit more for laughs.
Do you reckon?
Possibly. This one's entitled Amazing Podcast, and it's 5 stars, of course, as we all want to do. And this is from Riley Diavano. Hi, my name is Riley from the Big Open Podcast, and I'm a new listener to the Commonwealth. I love this show, period. Amazing chemistry and awesome senses of humour. I won't skip an episode. Thank you guys for making my brain explode with theories. Much love. Cheers. Thank you, Riley. Thank you so much. Check out Riley's podcast, the Big Open Podcast. Go and check it out. They talk about games and stuff.
Sorry, I really enjoy this.
Move along, Rob.
For the little bit. Oh, okay, fine.
No, go on.
I was going to do a bit of behind the scenes that made me laugh, but no. Apparently, Paul hates joy.
I do.
So yeah.
You met her?
It's just, sorry, it was the fact that. So, for listeners' benefit, we've got Mark sharing his screen and we're reading the notes from his machine. And as he read the words of the Big Open Podcast, he drew his mouse across it as if me and Paul weren't going to understand otherwise.
Big Open Podcast.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for circling it as well now. That's good. Oh, thanks. Rob understand now.
Yeah, there you go. There's a peek behind. There's a peek behind the slightly slow curtain at TSW.
The short yellow one, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Everyone who's sent in those reviews this week, thank you so much. It's really kind of you. And we want a whole lot more of that because they are a lot of fun. All right. Listener comms. This is the section where you guys get to send your bits and pieces to us, questions and comments for the show. So you can send them to us via Twitter or on Facebook, or email us directly at talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com. And if you attach an MP3, we'll play it into the show as a voicemail. So this is from Kyle at Tumbling Saber. He says, "Hi guys, hope you're doing well. I'm doing my part to help fill the Connor and Leo void this week. I posed this question to our wonderful friends over at Skyhoppers, but you know how I hold the TSW brand of speculation in high esteem, so I'm asking you fine gents as well." See, that stumped me there. I thought, really?
Opening crawler.
Why does Vader repeatedly credit Obi-Wan with Luke's training if Vader believes he killed Kenobi on the Death Star? As a Sith, they're unaware of life after death as a Force ghost, and I assume Vader has no idea about Force ghosting, or does he? Curious to hear your thoughts on this. Long live the Commonwealth, Kyle. So why does Vader think Obi-Wan trained Luke? And this, I think, is from a line in Empire,
well.
Yeah, Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan.
I've asked this question many times, actually. Well, kind of to myself and out loud, sort of thing. It's just like, did Vader have absolutely no knowledge of Yoda at that time? No, I think he had knowledge of him existing. I just don't think he had knowledge that Luke went there.
Yeah, of course he knew Yoda existed because Anakin trained with him, and he knows, I think, that he got away because Sidious didn't kill him. Well, I suspect.
Yeah.
I suspect more to the point. He probably didn't know where the kids had been all that time. So we know, of course, what the narrative is, that he was with Owen and Beru, but Vader doesn't know that Obi-Wan hadn't had Luke since he was a baby and spent his entire life training him.
That's true.
Vader doesn't know that, does he? So that's one option, I guess.
Yeah. And he does say as well, like, also, you know, he obviously knows the Force is strong in Luke, and perhaps he attributes a bit more of that to training than is realistic. And actually, it's a little bit of natural ability and some light training, but maybe Vader kind of misinterprets it as, you know, he's been quite well trained, but actually he's just quite good.
Yeah. And that is actually the case as well, isn't it? That he is just adept at this stuff, because by the time he leaves Tatooine on the Falcon, he's really not achieved anything. It's not until they're on the Falcon that he starts training with the lightsaber and the little floating probe, right? He hasn't done anything until then. He's just used his
nothing that he's aware of.
No, it's like Anakin with the pod as a kid, Rey on Jakku as a kid, and whatever Luke did in Beggar's Canyon. He's using the Force, but he's not really aware that that's what he's doing necessarily. But Vader has no reason. There's no reason why Vader wouldn't just assume that Obi-Wan kept. And at this point, Vader thought he only had one kid. If the pregnancy was successful with Padme, he had no idea it was twins. So he would have just thought, well, Obi-Wan kept my son all that time and trained him. And then when he kills Obi-Wan, it was at the end of nearly 2 decades of training and development for Luke. He has no reason to believe otherwise, does he?
No, I don't think so.
No, not based on the story we're given.
Yeah, you know, you think about it. He turns up. This Luke Skywalker kid. Obviously, he doesn't even know his name's Skywalker, but this kid turns up at the same time on the same day as Obi-Wan turns up on the Death Star and gives him all sorts of grief.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense that he would just go, oh, he must have been training him for ages.
Yeah.
Tangent. Where does this Skywalker come from?
What do you mean? When does he learn the name Skywalker?
Yeah.
In the comics between New Hope and Empire.
Simple as that.
It's Boba Fett.
Boba Fett goes to Obi-Wan's house. Why is Boba Fett there? I can't remember.
Just ransacking it, I think, looking for things to take on the Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah. That wasn't what I expected at all. So he goes to Obi-Wan's house, presumably just to nick stuff, and Luke goes there because he wants to look for Jedi artifacts, and they sort of have a bit of an altercation, and he catches the name Skywalker, I think, while he's looking for him, doesn't he? He doesn't catch it from Luke. He catches it from sort of inquiring about him around Tatooine and stuff. So then he tells Vader as part of his...
So where does Luke get the word? No, but who gave him the name Skywalker?
Well, I think,
Beru, I guess.
Yeah, and there's reason for that as well, because obviously Shmi was a Skywalker and she lived on that farm with Klieg, didn't she? So,
cool. Yeah.
So the name is present, and so it's not that unusual for the boy to grow up with the Lars family and have a different name when in the graveyard there is Shmi's name.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, that's where that connection would come back. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess that because they never really dip into this in the movies in any way, but I guess probably Luke's grown up believing that Owen is the son of Klieg, and Anakin, his father, who's gone, who's missing, who's dead, this pilot, was the son of Shmi, and they came together like a Tatooine-based Brady Bunch, and he grew up there just thinking, well, my grandmother has passed away because there's a grave. My father passed away, was this pilot or the navigator on a spice freighter, wasn't it? That was the story he was led to believe.
Yeah.
So it was all really played down. But you would think he won the Bunta Eve pod race, a Skywalker, so you'd think that name would be pretty well known if he was the only human that could do it.
Not only the only human to ever do it, but certainly, as a result,
the only human to ever enter.
Yeah.
And the only human that won a pod race and got his freedom from slavery.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's probably best not to start tugging at those sorts of threads, but for the purposes of Kyle's question there, I do think that there's something to be said for Vader's POV on the whole Luke situation. Before he knew he was his boy, there's no reason to believe that kid that showed up with Obi-Wan hadn't spent his life training with Obi-Wan. And then contextually later on, when he's given the information that's actually Anakin Skywalker's kid, he must have put two and two together and thought, Obi-Wan's raised my son and trained him.
He's a Jedi. Yeah.
So now there's my opportunity now to get an apprentice and seize control of this thing, get rid of Sidious once and for all.
Yeah.
Because that's Vader's mindset, isn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't quite got a plan, did it?
No. Best laid plans. Jedi and Sith. Yeah. Great stuff. Thank you, Kyle. I hope that position kind of makes sense for you. It's great. It's an area of Star Wars I'd never considered.
That's actually a mild education for me, to be completely honest with you. So
I'm resisting the urge to scroll down on Mark's screen.
You have no idea how many times I tried to do it.
I'm having trouble with this. Kidding. I'm sitting there going, why isn't it working? What's wrong with this stupid mouse?
All right. I'll try not to fidget as much as I do normally with this, because otherwise you'll both start to get seasick. All right. This question's from Ads. Who wants to take Ads' question this week?
Yeah, I'll go. From Ads. Hello, chaps. I sent this into Tumbling Saber. This happens a lot, doesn't it? We're always sort of being used as a second opinion almost. Sent this into Tumbling Saber last week, but would love to hear what you all think on it too. Touching slightly on the questions from recent weeks, rather than pressing the restart button on Star Wars World and having a new hope, etc. What do you think about a film that fits into the current saga, but the viewpoint is heavily from the dark side point of view instead? For example, in A Phantom Menace, Darth Maul appears as the main protagonist, but you only see glimpses of his interactions with Palpatine. Perhaps you could set a film showing what he and Palpatine are doing along the same timeline of the original film. The bits in the film that come together can be left untouched to preserve Lucas' work, but the rest could be all new, almost like an extended cut of the original movie. It would be easy to recast if needed due to the makeup, etc. for Maul stroke Palpatine, or even use the same actors. Ray Parker Celebration was still looking pretty nimble to me. I'd also like to see more detail and dark side training of a Sith compared to what it is of a Jedi. I've said that before as well. There was a fan-made film showing the end of Maul's training, which was brilliant. Have a think about that. Loving your work. Ta-ta. Ads. So breakdown. Would you enjoy a film that runs parallel to Phantom Menace, but showing it from a Sith point of view? It's almost like a sliding doors kind of situation, isn't it? What if we went down that route instead of this route?
Yeah. And
I really have thought about these kind of scenarios, but I think about these kind of scenarios in nearly every film I ever watched, to be honest. It just adds a bit of sort of spice to what you've already taken in. So you really enjoy the movie. Then you're like, oh, hang on a minute, what if this and what if that sort of thing? So, yeah, I mean, I think I've framed this out before to some degree. We've not seen dark side training and so on and so forth. So I'd be all for it, to be honest. I mean, it's the only reboot I'd consider of the prequels.
Yeah, I guess it would.
Steve's always asking for one, but this could be the channel that they could go down.
That's because Steve's a damn fool, and I can say that because he ain't here. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that seeing it from a different perspective would be really interesting, and
from a certain point of view,
absolutely seeing Sith training, I think, would be incredible, and I'd really love to see them get a bit more screen time. This sounds like a really original way of working that in, I think. What about you, Rob? What do you think?
I'd be up for hearing from the kind of the dark side of the equation. Less of a Infinity story and more of just exploring the other side of the coin. I would be more interested in slightly before Phantom Menace, specifically the kind of Plagueis Palpatine dynamic. That would be where my interest would lie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would be really up for that. But what about...
Or even go back even further and explore it like the Darth Bane era, because the Darth Bane Legends books are superb. And if they just told that story, I'd be happy, but I'm sure they could make an even better one.
Yeah, well, that would play right into what you want as well, Paul. You've always wanted to go right back to the start, haven't you?
Big time, right back to the, I'm talking, 3,000 years BC situation.
Yeah, Paul, if you get a chance, mate, read the Darth Bane Legends books, because they are superb for that. And they're the sort of creation of the Sith, kind of,
I want Genesis. I want literally Genesis.
Oh, you want Dawn of the Jedi then?
Oh.
Darth Bane ones is the creation of the Rule of Two. So it's the sort of, he basically goes to war with both the Jedi and the Sith at the same time, but from a kind of striking from the shadows kind of approach, rather than he doesn't have the numbers to take them on, man for man. So he's much more cerebral, much more subtle, much more picking his battles and making himself super powerful for when he needs to be and stuff like that. And they're just great. They're just so good. Yeah, if you get a chance, definitely.
Okay. I mean, we get a pinch of it. I mean, obviously, the entire U-turn from Anakin gives us a slight sort of indication of where this comes from. And you got, the little backstory of Jango Fett sort of thing. So we do get a very, very, very mild pinch of this. But it would be kind of cool to get, the full Monty from that perspective, if you like, because we're always fed the whole... Right, you're, by the way, whether you like it or not as a viewer, you're with the good guys, and we're going to play it out so that these become your good guys, and you're going to hate these guys, but we're not going to actually let you know really too much what goes on in the background there, but you're not going to like them, sort of thing. So
you know where they do explore it.
It is a force feed situation. So
they explore it a lot in the books. I've said this previously, that recently some of the best books I've read, I'm setting Bloodline aside, because to me that's probably the best thus far, and it's been very, very good. But things like Tarkin and Catalyst, they tell the story from a slightly different perspective. So
it's healthy.
Tarkin is a fantastic book.
What I've read of Tarkin's great.
Really, really good. A really good exploration of a villain, and it's not doing that thing that they often do where, let's make him sympathetic so you can understand what. No, it's just showing you where this person comes from and what makes them who they are, and makes no apologies for it. I really enjoy it. And I think in the books, they can explore the bad guys a little bit more and give them more of the stage. Whereas you might not necessarily want that, or that your average audience wouldn't necessarily want that in a film. So kind of what Ads is suggesting here, I think it's such a strange concept to build a film that exists inside another film, like Back to the Future 2 levels of Inception. Yeah. And then to couple that with telling the story of the bad guys, I would love it. I would absolutely love it. But it might work better in another medium, like perhaps a video game, where your cutscenes are the Sith parts of the movie, and then you go off and the rest of the story unfolds with you as being a part of it.
Yeah, like they teased but didn't quite hit the mark on with the Old Republic game trailers, was just at like movie level storytelling, and then it came out and it was an MMO that all kind of work pretty similarly. It wasn't that inspiring, but it's a shame because what I played of it I quite enjoyed, but it just played like every other MMO you can imagine. So it's a bit of a missed trick, really, which is a shame.
Yeah, and this I would see something like this, the Sith version of Phantom Menace, working as a video game in the same way as Shadows of the Empire worked as a video game. But you imagine it now with PS4 and Xbox One level graphics and maybe a bit of VR, but have it run with it, like, Shadow's got its own soundtrack, didn't it? It got the video game as well as the book, and you could do it in
good soundtrack too.
You could do it audio books, you could do it comic books, you could build up a massive multimedia experience around this one thing. And when you're done and you watch Phantom Menace again, it may recontextualize it if you get a decent enough writer involved. That to me would work beautifully.
We know a couple of writers, Mark.
We do. We know a third. who's probably better than the other two.
Certainly better than one of them.
How rude. It's a genius idea. It's an absolutely bloody brilliant idea.
I like it. Yeah. Yeah. I've like I say, I've investigated this kind of situation in many films, you know. But it's the whole thing. It's like, what if Titanic had missed? I mean, how many of us sat in the cinema? Go on. Oh,
yeah, change the ending.
You do, don't you? Every time. Yeah.
Maybe this time it'll be different.
Yeah.
If only.
Sort of thing. So, but you know, it's good fun. It's good fun, and that whole sliding doors sort of situation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it to just be 2 hours. I would love them to explore this.
No, this is a trilogy.
Like I say, multimedia,
Yeah,
and give us something we can really get involved with. You know, you play a couple of hours at a video game and then go to bed, listen to the soundtrack, and read the comic book.
Figures, toys, mugs.
I'm all in. I'm all in. Ads, make that happen.
Copyright done. There we go.
Get it done.
Ads gonna have 10%.
I don't think that's how copyright works when it comes to Star Wars.
You don't just shout things out.
No. Bagsy.
Bagsy. I haven't heard that one in a while.
Yeah, I know another company that don't play by those rules. Don't I, Lego? All right, we got a question. Have we all read? No, this is me, right? This one. You guys both read a question.
I haven't had a go.
6 words so far, Mark.
Oh no, sorry, Rob. This is you. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So this one is from. Oh, okay.
Can you keep scrolling up and down, plees, Mark? Because we're not feeling sick yet.
Yeah, I'm not extreme. Do you do the Wayne's World extreme close-up style?
I can probably do a bit of it. No, I'm not going to. Sorry.
Don't, please. Okay. So this one is from Jared Peppard, and Jared writes, I think an opening or ending scene of an emotional Kylo at his mother's resting place, like Vader at Padme's in the comics, would be powerful and explanatory enough for me without actually having to see Leia's ship destroyed, etc., and better than just having her character written out in the opening crawl. What do you lot think? So basically, do we think that a scene with Kylo or Ben at Leia's graveside would be enough to communicate the fate of Leia, were they to decide to kill her off?
Well, has this got some unfortunate timing attached to it?
Yeah, because that John Boyega's comments came out, didn't they? Just as
I need to read these. I haven't actually read the actual comments.
Well, I don't know how much. Sort of. I'm trying to think of the word. I don't know how loose his comments were, or how nail on head they are, and so on. But he's giving the impression that we have what you might consider this beautiful sort of infinite story for the princess, if you like.
Yeah.
This immortalization, which I'm all for, but at the same time. And Marcus scrolled down again. Yeah, I
scrolled down so Rob could see John Boyega's comments, but I can just maybe accommodate both screens.
I'm sorry, I don't want it to sound too dark, but the question's been asked. I do like the idea very, very much of the darkness and the reality of Kylo in such a position.
Yeah, no, I think it makes good sense, yeah.
Enormously.
Yeah.
In what capacity do you think this would be if he was to do this? So let's just take John Boyega's comments away for a second. Let's just consider that at the end of 8, or between 8 and 9, they need to communicate to us that Leia is dead.
Yeah, well, we've discussed this in many, many different facets before, and it's possible to lose her. And
so how does Kylo or Ben Solo, depending on which side he is on at that period, how does Leia being in the grave relate to him? Does he put her there, or is the reason he's come back from the dark side?
No, he's realised loss at last. Okay. He didn't realise it so much in the situation with Han because he was being tested in the utmost, and he was on edge. I don't think he was even in his right mind at that point, to be honest. I mean, the thank you could have been one of several things, which I'm not going to peddle into now, but I think the idea of I don't know what is, because I mean there's a lot of backstory to come from Kylo anyway, so I don't know what the relationship or the bonding is between him and Leia, and it'd be kind of cool if it was really, really, really strong, and that was that was his backbreaker, if you like. So no, I just think the image is strong. And it's emotive, and it can release a really, really cool storyline situation as well. So if that was sort of early to mid in the movie, but I don't think that's going to be the case because they said Carrie shot what we understand 75 to 80% of Last Jedi. So
I don't know, she was completely wrapped.
No. I mean, but story-wise, she's in an enormous
I see.
movie. That's the thing, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's this is an interesting sort of exercise to think about how that would. I don't think it would work for me at all. Personally speaking, to have the character expire off screen, even with such a potent image as her son at the graveside. We've seen that in Star Wars with Anakin at Shmi's grave. So we've experienced those elements before. I just don't know how I feel about... I mean, one way or another, I'm going to have to get used to the idea because it's going to happen. Leia's going between movies.
Yeah.
But it's not... I have an option now to consider that character lives on in the universe of Star Wars, even though that doesn't make any sense to me,
right?
From the story standpoint, because she's always been at the center of it. But if they were to do something as definite as shut a story down and not tackle it on screen and have Ben at the graveside, it just wouldn't work for me at all.
Well, we don't know the instance in which he's there. It could have been after. I mean, actually, I apologise. They're talking about possibility of early in the movie, aren't they? Here.
Yeah. Well, he gave both options. He said either. There we go. Look, even an opening or ending scene of an emotional Kylo at his mother's resting place. Now, if this wasn't Star Wars, I'd say you could open with that scene of him at the grave, and then you could tell then you could like do a time jump and do the full story leading up to that moment. You know, they often do in TV shows where they show you the end of the movie.
Yeah, but
3 hours earlier.
We don't do that in Star Wars, though, do we?
No, we don't.
When have you had a situation like that?
Yeah, you can't do that in Star Wars.
But that said, they said Ryan's breaking all the rules on this, and so we don't know what's coming our way. So
No, we certainly don't. And I guess we've seen them play with time in as much as Anakin sees the future. He sees his mum's death. He sees Padme's death. They're the things that motivate him and lead him to those questionable choices.
Ray certainly seems to have seen a few things that we're not
Ray's
aware of.
seeing past, present, and future. She's seeing all sorts of stuff.
Everything, yeah.
Talk about mind melt.
Yeah.
Luke's in some of the future.
Yeah.
Or possible future.
Yeah.
So maybe Ben could see
the beauty of that.
Ben could see it as a possible.
That works.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing. This is what I really love about it. You could say that Anakin's glimpse at one possible future gave him the opportunity to fulfill that future, because every action he took led him closer to the thing that he was desperately trying to avoid. Yeah. And inaction would have been his better option.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's true.
No?
No, well, I mean, obviously it would have stopped him from
strangling her on Mustafar.
Village of Tuscans.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking about Padme. Excuse me.
Sorry.
He has the vision of Padme dying in childbirth.
Yeah.
And then off he goes.
I see what you're saying, yeah. Okay.
So that's the thing where if he hadn't have been so motivated by the vision of Padme dying, he wouldn't have taken the steps towards that event.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, yeah.
You know? So the thing on Tatooine, I'm sure there's more to that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's orchestrated in order to provoke the response from Anakin and push him closer to the dark side. I'm sure that's the case, even though I don't think that's ever been suggested anywhere in canon. But to me, that seems like the right fit. Yeah, there's nothing he did that could have changed that event. But with Padme, certainly. And it would be interesting again, I guess, in this situation to explore that with Kylo. If he had a vision, and if this Kylo at Leia's graveside is a vision, then I'm all in.
It would be nice, actually, in one respect as well, because they could use it to explain visually that he's still having issues with the pull of the light, despite he's trying to move away from it. He's still
might be the reason she's there.
Yeah, well, that's it.
That's the thing I mean.
Might not know. Yeah,
that's the Anakin's Padme vision scenario, isn't it? If Kylo, I mean, think of this, right? If we open and Kylo's training, you know, we've seen the behind the scenes reels, Adam Driver's like training choreography with two guys with staffs. What if they are the Praetorian Guard and Kylo is being drilled by Snoke in how to fight multiple enemies because he's about to go up against Luke and Rey, so he's being trained. And whilst he's being trained, Paul, we've spoken before about what Sith training would be like. He's being constantly tortured by Snoke with visions, and he's tormenting him. And then he starts to have visions of this potential future of Leia. That's when he has the vision of himself crouching by Leia's graveside, and that might spark in him a decision to take action that leads to that event becoming true. The same as Anakin had the vision of Padme, and steps towards avoiding it, make it
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Snoke might be pulling those strings deliberately to elicit that response from Kylo, and that might be where we end up between, if we see that image, this isn't going to happen, but if we saw that image at the start of Last Jedi, that he has a vision of him by Leia's grave, and then at the end of the movie, all hell breaks loose, and we see that image again at the opening of 9, that he is actually by her grave, then it will make sense and complete that circle. But it could all be part of Snoke's sort of plan to break Kylo Ren or break Ben Solo.
That whole scene is dictated by one little element as well, and I've already gone in both directions on this mentally, which is quite cold and worrying. But he could either be a sorrowful Kylo, or it might be a semi-joyful one. And that sends a bit of a shiver down your spine, to be honest.
Well, this is the thing with him.
What if it is fulfillment for him? You know what I mean? So,
like when he murdered his father. It is. It's not about the act of doing it. It's about what he believes that's going to do for him. You
that's just an incident along the way. Yeah.
You read about people like Ed Gein and Jeffrey Dahmer. I believe I'm right in saying that with both those guys, the cannibalistic aspects of their pathology it was about consuming that other person, making them a part of you, making their power a part of you, and having ultimate control over them. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? With Kylo killing Han, it's not necessarily about I'm going to kill my dad. Patricide wasn't the first thing on his mind. It was, what am I going to attain when I do this? I'm going to purge the last of the light side, and that's going to make me more powerful. So maybe when he doesn't feel that power, maybe Leia rises to the top of his list. This is the last person I care about. This is the last person I have compassion for. If I kill them, if I consume them, I can extinguish the last of the light side and become what my grandfather was before compassion pulled him back from the darkness. So for Kylo, he becomes, we've said for a long time, how fascinating that character is, that this new, quite contemporary archetype is. And if it is about destroy the things that will make you weak and become all powerful, then you might be onto something, Paul. If he was to kneel at Leia's graveside, it might be a jubilant Kylo Ren thinking, I've just snuffed out the last thing that will make me weak. It's now I'm unbeatable.
It's a little worrying, don't get me wrong, but it's also very interesting at the same time.
Pitch black. It is pitch black, but that's the fascinating thing about these characters, because we've gone one way before, like Vader.
But it's dealing with that, with the whole Carrie Fisher situation at the same time. That's what many people will have a real hard time swallowing.
Yeah, of course, and that's why I was saying there's no way this
including
happens.
yourself.
This is the thing. It's okay to explore these options, I think, hypothetically, because they're never going to happen. Because that the spectre of Carrie looms large over the destiny of Leia, and they're not going to. This is going to be very much like Paul Walker in the Fast and Furious franchise, where that poor young man lost his life in tragic circumstances. You're really going to take the character that he left behind and destroy that as well? No, they let him dry. Or I understand if there aren't many Fast and Furious fans, but they let that character drive off into the sunset. He lives on now, off screen, away from camera. He's living on, as far as I know. I haven't watched films, but Paul Walker passed away, but they gave him immortality by allowing his character on screen to go off and survive the event.
Joker was hanging from a wire, and all we know is he was re-imprisoned.
Exactly. Another one that they left have an existence on screen.
It was actually very cool that he was just hanging as well. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that he was just literally hanging, it's like this character is hanging in the air again. We can do what we want later and so on. But goodness me, thank you, Heath, for producing such an emotive situation for us. So, yeah.
Yeah, this has happened all too many times, isn't it now?
Yeah, there's several of them.
Yes.
Enough already. Yeah, I want Leia.
D&M, innit?
I want Leia to live on off screen. I don't know how they're going to do it. They've got to pull a magic trick out of the hat here to get Leia out of the events of these films, but allow her to live on.
Do they though?
In the universe,
if we lose her, it could be still done with an enormous amount of dignity and celebration and victory. You don't know what's coming your way yet.
No, that's true. But I think it's difficult. It's difficult for something like that to happen to one of the big three characters.
Because we don't want to face loss twice as well.
No, we don't. There's no, like we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, there's no appetite for it. But you can't lose one of the big three and not have that a focal point of the storytelling, surely. Isn't that shortchanging that character and us as an audience? If you do something like kill the character off.
It depends what you're doing with the the rebirth. And Star Wars is in a rebirth situation right now, so.
It is, but you can't close a book on one of these characters without giving it its due and exploring it fully, surely.
Which they may well do.
But not on screen, they can't.
Well, you're saying can't before we know what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, the whole of Episode 8 might be about the death of Leia, but I think with what we've heard about how 9 was supposed to be her movie, it's probably not the case, because remember, the only cryptic bit, and these are the things that talk to me, the only bits we know are Bob Iger saying 8 remains unchanged, and Kathy saying Leia was a huge part of Episode 9, and that would have been Carrie's film. So these things, they don't add up, do they? If you haven't changed 8, it has to happen in the gap between films. And she either goes off, perhaps into hiding, and Episode 9 plays out with a...
I don't think hiding does her any justice.
I don't think it does the character any justice.
No, so I don't believe that's coming either. I don't think they would write that situation in.
You can't kill her off. That's not doing the character any justice. You can't... and it's treating the audience with disrespect, I think. You can't have her run and hide, because that's not the character that was built over all those years. So what else are you going to do?
Why can't we lose her and gain a Force Ghost?
And that to me seems like the best. That seems to me like the best option, really. But it does require Carrie's likeness to be used in some way, and Kathy's pretty much shut that down. Although she didn't actually say there won't be a Force Ghost of Carrie Fisher, of Princess Leia.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've
got to wait and see, dude.
The Fisher family said yes, they're going to use her likeness, right? Todd Fisher came out and said Star Wars, Carrie is as much a part of Star Wars as anyone. What would Star Wars be without her? Of course they can use her likeness. And then Kathy said no, he spoke too soon. So maybe they snuffed out that rumour before people started to piece it together, and they are in fact planning to have Leia as a Force Ghost or in a dream sequence like a Force vision or something. Perhaps that's where if you get Leia's death, maybe it happens in a Force vision, and then it can be as esoteric as you want it to be, right? It doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to be. It can be almost like metaphor. Do you think? Rob, you've been very quiet.
I have dialogue. Oh well, wonderful.
All you did,
what was
all
the
you need to
question?
do, old chap, is speak up.
I tried, and I got talked over about 6 times, so I gave up.
Right, moving on.
What was the question? Now, what does this do?
We were doing the 5-star reviews, Rob.
Oh, okay. So this is from Jared.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, what do you think? Leia, sort of how to deal with Leia, how to solve the problem like Leia without Carrie.
Are we not jumping ahead? Like massively?
No. We're still talking about the Kylo Ren and Leia's graveside, but we're just kicking around how you can get from the end of The Last Jedi, where we know Leia was wrapped, and Bob Iger's told us stories unchanged, and the start of Episode 9, where they're apparently not going to use Leia.
Right. So I have one word.
Mm-hmm.
Exile.
Okay.
She does something unforgivable to win, and it's not that she, and it's not to say how best to explain this.
That's interesting.
How it's not that she does something truly kind of heinous.
No, but
she does something
with a positive outcome.
She does it for the greater good, but she gets pilloried by some politician like a Laura Dern.
It's going to be a political situation. This rocks,
and exiled from, expelled from the resistance and, shunned by the Republic, and she has to go off into her own.
It's an extension of Bloodline. It's the way she was treated in Bloodline, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's just it gets to the point where she's already done. Yeah, sorry. So she's already been exiled from the. She's been sort of what is the word I'm looking for? Shunned by the Republic, and then over the course of Episode 8, she commits some act that is considered, for lack of a better expression, it's considered a war crime. It's a thing that you just don't do if you're the good guys, and they've got their morally grey stuff that they've been working on in what's called Rogue One, but. They've still got their limits as far as they're concerned. They've still got their limits. So if she's doing something that, even if it's for the greater good, results in catastrophic failure, or even if she does it with the best of intentions and it goes wrong, then somebody like a Laura Dern, who's a sort of like I say, a more kind of politically minded character, might be inclined to use it to get rid of her and to step into her shoes and take her place. This is
a really cool feeder as well, because how many times we've been frustrated by petty politics in situations where the outcome is going to be what we all need, but it's frowned upon by let's just say soft liberal.
It's also quite interesting that we might lose. I mean, she's already. Leia's built this resistance out of the ashes of the rebellion, and if some politico robs her of this new thing, this phoenix that she's rebirthed, if some political machinations serve to take that away from her, and we don't know what Laura Dern's motives are right now. She could be connected to the First Order. She could be connected to Snoke.
She could just be a resistance person who's too ambitious, and she's willing to step over anybody to get to the positions of power. And she might have, she might be on the side of good, but no angel.
See, I'm now in love with the idea that Leia does something that is really, really, really positive for Kylo at first impression. But is a big negative later.
Yeah, what if she does something to save him?
And that's seen as like an unforgivable act in terms of
and now I'm hearing one word: family.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. But the BST, the behind the scenes, real sort of lent on that, didn't it?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, and I've been playing around with this idea on the Kessel runs about how Luke's taken the Barish vow because he's not capable of taking down Kylo Ren, even though he needs to. He's decided to sit things out on Arc 2 because he can't do what needs to be done in the same way as Luke couldn't. When he was told by his masters, you go kill him, he couldn't. He had to use a different set of tools. So what if Luke sat this out because he can't take action against Kylo because of him being his nephew and his Padawan? And it's like Obi-Wan as well, about Anakin, I can't face him. Send me to face the Emperor, but I can't face, his brother for all intents and purposes. So what if Leia thinks, well, if push comes to shove, and I
do it?
Yeah, and what if she doesn't? What if she sacrifices lives in order to allow a boy to live?
Yeah,
and maybe he plays her like that as well. Maybe he plays on that weakness in her,
almost like he did with Han Solo as well.
Yeah,
I know what she's going to do.
I'm on the precipice of, darkness. Can you help me?
She's going to hand. She's going to hand Luke over.
Ooh. Okay.
Well, we've got the connection
for the greater good.
The map's now complete. Leia's like, there he is.
For the greater good.
For the greater good, go get him.
Because they're they're about to unleash even more hell upon.
There you go. So you don't need to go and see the film now. But I've sorted it.
I have a bigger problem with that. I would rather think that Leia caves in because of the love for her son and compassion for her son. We know Skywalkers.
What about if Luke goes along willingly and Leia gets the blame?
It's good.
I would be.
But what about if
I would much prefer that?
What about if she's wearing a red outfit?
No. That really doesn't work for me. She's not a Praetorian Guard.
She gives Kylo Luke's lightsaber.
No, that's already done and dusted. That thing.
I'm I'm just going off tangents now.
I'd much prefer. I don't want Leia to make a mistake. Not a tactical mistake, and I don't want her to betray anybody, but I'm willing to accept that she would give in to a love for her son. And if it meant she didn't pull the trigger when she should have, or if it meant that...
She's no one dummy. She'll do a very conscious sacrifice.
He's saying they're going to do a point break, and she's just going to fire a gun into the air. Just be like, ah!
Yeah, fire a blaster into the air,
Yeah.
And Kylo's replacing his helmet with a Ronald Reagan rubber mask.
I didn't mean a literal shot-for-shot remake.
We have broken it right open this evening.
I think we've broken something. I think it's my mind.
Something's definitely broken. No,
thanks, Jared.
Rob, that's that's a really good idea that her compassion will be her undoing. This is a Skywalker thing.
Yeah.
This is absolutely a Skywalker thing.
I know, but at the same time, if there is this nice new fresh energy that's come into it, maybe it's the first time they've realised, hang on a minute, you've got to do something pretty heavy to maybe get a positive outcome. And if that's coming our way, I'm all for it, frankly. I mean, we all talk about Empire being, sort of the key latch in the box. That was because it was the whole darkness element was the latch to it, and it led on to much lighter things. So if that's the direction they're going in, and we've been told that to expect a slightly more Empire feel movie in this case, then bring it on.
Yeah. No, agreed. I'm all for the dark of it all. Yeah, absolutely. I just really want them to kind of preserve Leia's integrity. I'm willing to allow her the weakness.
I think that's a no-brainer, mate. Yeah. That's going to happen.
Allow her the weakness of the love for her son, which is what brought Anakin back. That was the return of the Jedi, the love for the son. And if that's why Luke can't step in to the fray now because of his love for his nephew, no.
There will be that as well. Like I say, and
I'm sold.
Family thing, yeah. At the same time, Mark, for whatever happens, mate, I think you're going to be crying, and you will be crying for all the right reasons.
No, we just had a conversation for like 15 minutes. I cried 3 times.
I can believe you.
It's true. He's got the video shared now, so we can see the reflection.
And I'm still trying to scroll these damn notes.
All right. Jared, thank you very much. Yeah, we answered your question directly.
Gone on all night,
and then we played a little Star Wars jazz with it. I think
this is why we don't want you talking, Rob.
Yeah.
You want me to save it for the really impactful moments, yeah?
Like that one. Yeah, no,
less is more.
Yeah.
That unlocked a lot of possibility for how they can handle Leia. I don't mind telling you, I feel a little bit relieved at now having a new option. Not like that. Well, a little bit. If I'm honest, a little bit like that. All right, let's go to a break, and then when we come back, because Connor's on holiday, we're just going to jump straight into some Star Wars news. Bloody Connor, always on holiday.
Would you just call him?
Just. Anyway, moving on. All right, we're going to go to a break.
Absent thusly.
Yeah, we will be right back. If you'd like to support what we do here at Talk Star Wars, you can do so by becoming a TSW sponsor. For as little as £1 per month given securely via PayPal, you'll help us keep the lights on here at Talk Star Wars. When you become a TSW sponsor, we will automatically make you a TSW VIP. As a VIP, you'll get access to an exclusive stream of content that provides you with a daily podcast called the TSW Kessel Run, membership to the TSW VIP Facebook group, priority releases of shows such as the TSW Toy Box and TSW Comics. You'll also get priority access to the TSW Feature Com series and weekly Facebook Live and AMA sessions. There are also newsletters and a monthly prize draw. Head to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and become a TSW sponsor today, and the Force will be with you always.
Hi, this is Adam, a very proud member of the TSW VIP group. I've listened to and downloaded a lot of Star Wars podcasts, and the only one that ever stood out and spoke to me was the Talk Star Wars podcast. I had a short ad, a little bit like this one, on one of the podcasts, and I bit the bullet for just a few pounds a month and joined this alliance. Within minutes of joining, it was a revelation. This group has become a new family of Star Wars theorists and collectors, and great friends, with daily Kessel Run episodes and weekly Facebook meetups, watch-alongs and general banter. It's been wonderful. Join us and be part of this great community.
And we're back, and because there's no Connor's Corner this week, we'll be going straight into Star Wars news. But you would have just heard the VIP spot, and you would have just heard a testimonial from one of our VIPs. So hopefully you will follow suit and join our little ever-expanding community of Star Wars fans. Right, we're going to jump into... What were you giggling at? Are you reading puns again?
No, you said little and ever-expanding.
Oh, and I thought Steve was off.
I've heard it so many times.
Let's get into some Star Wars news now. There's only Last Jedi, Han Solo, and Episode 9 news this week, so everything, unfortunately, qualifies as a spoiler. So if you are trying to preserve yourself, why are you listening to a Star Wars podcast? But this is your opportunity.
Yeah. If you're trying to preserve yourself, bye.
Yeah, bye. See you in December. This is your opportunity to jump out and avoid any of the potential spoilers that lie henceforth. So give you a chance to get your phone out and pause playback. Right, okay, Last Jedi news. Potential spoilers. So did you see these action figure leaks at the weekend? I have some images. So some Last Jedi action figures.
Well, we used to click on the link you supplied in the notes and go to them.
Yeah, we just have to watch while Mark does it for us because we can't be trusted with sharp objects.
Now we have to look at Apple Desktop.
Yes. That's okay. Yes, this is what a working computer looks like, Paul.
Who's Chewie? Chewie, that looks cool there.
He doesn't.
No.
Yeah, but this looks good.
It's a little cartoony, isn't it?
Yeah, but what's with the... He's had highlights done for crying out loud. Oh, there's a...
They've emphasised the beardiness, haven't they?
A little bit. I mean...
Yeah. It is a bit odd. These are 3 3/4 inch.
They're a little. The 3 3/4 are a little cartoonier generally, aren't they? Like even in the Force Awakens and Rogue One ones, they're a little bit, tiny bit more.
That's extreme.
Yeah,
that is a much bigger jump, I would say that.
But considering the size of the action figure, this is a really quite a decent sculpt. I know all this stuff.
No, it is. It is. It's so bizarre. Look at the fur line, but now look at the belt, which looks like it's been painted by a kid with a nail varnish kit.
But it is a teeny tiny.
The Porg looks well cool.
The Porg looks brilliant, doesn't it?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, it's lovely.
A hint that I think there is going to actually be some Chewie Porg interaction.
Going to have a little comedic moment or two.
I would think. Like he did with the
use them for Minox and blow them out of the sky.
Yeah, or it's going to be like Tribbles, and there's going to be a Porg in every pack.
Well, let's go to another pack, like this one of Rey, who comes without a Porg. But
that we can see.
Yeah, that it might be down there behind this kobold.
Behind the Force Link bracelet, yeah.
She does have the staff and the Skywalker lightsaber.
And there's a gun there too.
Not a bad likeness. Oh yeah, she got the gun that Solo gave her. So kind of when they packed up the Luke Bespin figure for Empire Strikes Back, the Luke in Bespin fatigues, he had a lightsaber and a blaster, didn't it? It wasn't until the next film where he just came with a lightsaber.
Yeah, to be fair, in the film, in Bespin, he had both, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So it might give us some idea of where Rey is with her training. Still dependent on the old stuff. We've seen her using the staff, haven't we, in the behind-the-scenes reel, so she's not quite ready to sort of go all in on the Jedi stuff just yet. Maybe she keeps hitting the off button.
Where did these images come from, Mark?
They were on some chap's Instagram. He's
I'm really under the impression these are prototype figures.
No, I think they were actually on the peg somewhere. They come out
seriously.
Early. Yeah,
that seems a bit early, doesn't it? It's August.
I'm a little underwhelmed so far. I'm sorry.
They're not due to hit stores until Force Friday, which is about a month away. The guy's name.
Good to see Poe a bit closer.
Yeah,
with Porg.
The guy's name on Instagram is Star Wars Rogue 507.
Okay.
If you want to go and check out his stuff, they're still up. No one's had them pulled down yet because I've embedded them on the Talk Star Wars site. So.
Now 3PO looks awesome.
Yeah, 3PO is an easy figure to get right, isn't he?
I don't know. For once, he's got the black band around the abdomen and so on. So
yes,
that used to just be a continuous sort of gold
true.
press, if you like. That looks pretty cool.
That's true. I forget that this isn't the 6-inch Black Series version. The top figure in this image is Paige, who is
who we
Rose's
think is Rose's
sister.
Yeah. Or I think it's Rose's sister.
We're pretty that much we are sure of. I think. Yeah.
She comes with a Kindle apparently on her chest there, and
working one too.
And a working
I think
one.
I think
very
that's
expensive
a selection of pictures of Porgs.
Which is collectively known as porgography.
Porgography, yes.
And she's all obviously comes with
porg.
a little helmet. I'm not sure if that's a thing or if that's just light. Is that a thing inside there? But she comes with like a removable helmet, and then she's got the flight hat underneath it, which I think is awesome. We've also got my calendar opening up on the side of the screen there. C-3PO. Oh, there's Chewie with the Porg again.
Go back a second. Go back.
Right
Big
again.
plot reveal.
Excuse me.
Gold arms.
Both gold arms, yeah.
I kid you not. There were people genuinely surprised by this on Twitter, despite the fact that it's a line of dialogue in The Force Awakens.
And he's all gold at the end of The Force Awakens.
Well, there you go.
So you get, there is the red C-3PO is standing behind him and to the right.
Grow up a little. Sorry, but that's not good.
What, Kylo?
What's not?
Kylo looks like Sidious, for crying out loud.
Yeah, not a great photograph. We'll see a better shot of him in a second.
That's a little better.
That's a cartoony Hux though.
Hux,
it is a little bit, yeah. But it's better than Kylo, I'm afraid.
General or Shucks.
No Shucks. He comes with a mouse
Finn looks pretty cool.
And a blaster. Finn looks
Actually,
good.
Looks right.
He's again, but I think if we were to have a higher definition image of this, it would still be kind of a cartoony sculpt. That still seems a little bit cartoony to me.
Seriously,
Rose.
These were on a shop. These were in a shop peg. Yeah.
Yeah. They're genuine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a tad underwhelmed by those.
I'm the other way. I actually quite like them. And when you see this image here of Luke and
please do
Kylo Ren. Let me just
now Kylo looks a little different in that shot.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a better.
Luke's is awesome.
Luke's is fantastic, right?
He's still got the square crotch.
And
he's also got the withering look downwards.
The looking down. And maybe this head's damaged on this figure, but it could be that is actually. And no lightsabers.
There's a weird like that. I've got a pop vinyl that won't stand up.
Right.
That's what they're. I mean, that is failing.
Pop vinyl.
It's literally their only job.
Yeah. Kylo's got a gobstopper in his left cheek.
Yeah, it does look like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Turn your back on the family.
Is that what he's doing? It's that family line again. I think they look. I think they look good personally for 3 3/4
The fatigues and stuff are awesome, but the sculpting of some of the faces a little worrying.
Well, that's what the Black Series is for. That they get you the better detail in the sculpts when they've got the slightly larger format action figures. But I think for 3 3/4 inch figures, I think they look pretty good. Especially the Luke, I think is especially good. And of course, I want a Porg. So
yeah, I think it should all come with Porgs. I think that should be.
I think Porgs should be like the new Smurfs.
Yeah, I'd go one further and say I could do without the Force Link gauntlet things and more Porgs. If there's still time to make that happen, then Hasbro, if you're listening,
please
sort us out, bro.
Make that a thing. Sort us out.
Thank you, bro.
Hasbro.
Thanks. Hasbro. Yeah. Be a Hasbro, not a Hasno.
Has been. All right. MSW posted some Last Jedi concept posters today. Going back to the images again. These were based on descriptions that Jason got when he was at Comic-Con, because he actually saw the artwork. So this is an artist's impression. If you look, I think you can see the elements from those leaked photographs last week are present here. Okay. The Snoke face, the Luke face dominating the picture. The Phasma pose is very much that image. So I wonder if those shots were purely taken to provide reference material for posters or Photoshop elements for the poster artists. But I quite like this poster. What do you think? I like the idea of this poster. The Praetorian Guard in there. It's very Star Wars, isn't it?
It is. To see the art more fine-tuned would be nice. It really does have some promise. If it was, a proper one sheet, that's a really cool piece of artwork waiting to deliver, to be honest.
Yeah. I like the way Kylo's lightsaber
is there something in the 9 o'clock thing going on here?
Oh, episode 9?
No.
No,
because this is episode 8.
Yeah, what about something at the 3 o'clock? Because when we look at the second poster design, we've got...
You see the way the lightsaber's going across your scar?
Yes. Yeah, Chewie, Porgs. Some good stuff going on here.
Excuse the silence, but I think we're all really looking at the picture.
Yeah. Sorry,
I see there's R2 one side and there's BB-8 on the other. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, BB-8's in there. Has Rob stepped away? I'm getting a message popping up on Skype and I don't want to go back to it because we're looking at the picture.
Yeah, I stepped away, but I'm back now.
Oh, I've just lost everything.
Yeah, we've got Snoke in the...
You trading in currency again, Paul? I warned you.
Yeah.
I've only got 12,000 Bitcoin left.
You'll be up again tomorrow.
I think you're doing okay.
What's that in real money, like a quid?
27,000.
What is this thing back in there? Are they the Faltiers?
I just better ask
horses? They're the race horses, aren't they, I think?
Yeah, I think the Faltiers.
So Finn, Rose...
Yep.
Luke and Ray, Leia, Poe, bunch of droids, Chewie.
No Porgs. Disappoint.
They're Porgs.
They're Porgs. Oh yeah, there are. There's loads. Why are there no? Why do you have to buy 86 Chewies to get the number of Porgs you want?
This was this poster was drawn by the Swedish chef from Sesame Street.
That's a Porg.
Porg. Because he's put 3 in there. It's not Sesame Street anyway. Before we get letters, it's the Muppet Show. Yeah, I like them. I like these posters. I like the red and white theme. I get the impression that that's going to be quite strong in the official art when it comes out. The crate theme almost, isn't it? Yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what's going to be dominating is that red again. That's how they're going to use it.
Yeah. Okay, right. There are a couple of visual things that you're listening to us look at on a podcast, which probably doesn't work all that well. John Boyega, we hinted at this earlier in Listener Comms.
Yeah, we covered this to some degree, haven't we?
John Boyega has made a few comments about Leia and Carrie Fisher in The Last Jedi. I've put a link in the show notes, so if you download the show notes, you can go to, and there's a video in there. Paul,
you talking to us or the audience at this point?
You'll have to download them because you can't click on this because that's my screen. So this is what John Boyega says. This movie sends her off in an amazing way. She remains alive in this franchise, and that's the beauty of it. She lives forever, in a sense. Does that tie in with anything we were speculating about?
Force Ghost.
Exile.
An exiled Force Ghost.
Well, think about it this way, right? Exile it doesn't sound like an amazing way on the face of it in terms of it's not a happy ending, but it's an amazing it's an amazing result because it makes an instant heel in Laura Dern if she's the one who's responsible.
Yes, yeah.
It invests us in seeing if she's behind it. It invests us in seeing her get her comeuppance in episode 9.
Yeah,
Revenge of the Porgs.
Yes, it's definitely going to record that.
Calling it now.
Porg Hub.
Porg 1. So there's that. I think we would do well, I would say, to not confuse the term amazing way with happy ending.
No.
Because that's not necessarily what it means. It's good. What it means is it's good. Yeah. Like it's well done. It's, and that, whether it's in exile or it's self-imposed, I've got to walk away from this fight because I've already lost too much kind of attitude on her part. Yeah. I've already had to say goodbye to my husband. I've had to, now I don't want to say goodbye to my son.
That's the feeling I'm getting.
I've just lost my, I've also lost my brother.
Yeah.
Question mark.
The more we talk about this, the more I'm thinking that Leia making the decision to allow her son to survive at the expense of the Resistance
or herself
might be a way for the character to make a decision that comes from that compassionate place where the Skywalkers are all tripping up on, but also gives her an opportunity to own it and say, I'm done. I'm no use to this fight anymore. I'm compromised.
Yeah.
And like Paul's just put in the chat, family, she will move. She will make a decision and own it and say, right, there you go. I have nothing else to offer because what can I do? I can't.
What more can I give? I've already given so much.
My child,
Yeah.
That works for me. Mm-hmm. Finally, I think I found a way to make peace with the situation. If that's the way they go with it, I'll be more than happy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does make sense of what he says, and it does work well with what you've both been saying this evening.
She lives forever in a sense as well. Like she goes off and we never hear from her again in the context of in this series, but at the same time we never deal with it on screen. It's always always dealt with off screen.
It does give her if 9 could have been an amazing comeback for her, that they no longer need to explore that option. If she does go away, like Han went away at the end of Empire, no one knew if Harrison Ford was coming back.
Yeah.
No one knew. So there was the option for Jedi to have gone on.
I think we had a hunch.
Him. Yeah, but
as soon as 3PO said, "Oh, he's in perfect hibernation," I always had a hunch.
Yeah, but at that point, even the producers didn't know. Harrison had only signed. He hadn't signed on to do the 2 movies.
It's the 8-year-old fans that matter.
You're making a compelling argument. I agree, but it's they didn't know at the time. I have it at Jack Daniels now. They didn't know at the time if Harrison was going to come back. So there could have been a Return of the Jedi where there was no Han Solo. They only put the rescue in when someone said, "Have you called him and asked?" And they've made the phone call, and he said, "Yep, all right, I'll do it." So it could have been the same thing here. We get an enigmatic exit for Leia where she could have come back, and she could have come back with an armada of ships at the right moment in the last film. And, and then it all, she comes roaring back in and redeems herself in the eyes of whomever, but
now they have to do it a different way.
She left and said, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
If you're asking me if it's between the Resistance and my son, I'm going to choose my son.
Yeah.
And not that she runs off with him skipping into the distance, but if she doesn't have anything to do with his downfall, she can go away at peace. I like that. I kind of like that. I think that really works.
Well, I try.
You're happy?
Yes, for once. Okay. Let's move on from Last Jedi news to Han Solo news. There are a lot of images coming out from that set this week, and it's all Ron. They even referred to Ron Howard's social networks as the official publicity machine for the Han Solo movie on the Star Wars show this week.
Yeah,
he's doing great work over there. I'm loving the way he's keeping us engaged with these little bits and pieces. So This is a comment that Ron made. I forget where, and I didn't write it on there. There is a link in there. But he was talking about how well the Han Solo movie's coming together, and he says it's a great young cast, incredibly strong, smart, funny people who love their characters and love being a part of this. I think we'll be able to do something that is a lot of fun. And then there's some images that came out as well, which he tweeted out, which is him discussing, this is Bradford Young, I believe, the director of photography on the show, and he's discussing a scene where they're in some sort of really dim lit environment.
Hard to tell what it is.
It looks like it could be like a catacomb or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we can just make out, I've just enlarged and inset there a close-up of the alien, or the Graylien, as Rob's been referring to him as, who seems to be sitting at a table in the corner of this catacomb. What a great prop. This is like that. You remember that big beast that Bazine Natal was sitting next to in Maz's place in The Force Awakens?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a big practical, like a big puppet. This looks like it might be a puppet that someone operates either from inside or under the table or something.
Yeah.
Rather than being like a person in makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I love the helmet as well. It really looks like an alien out of his environment, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like something that's not used to breathing whatever atmosphere that is.
Yeah.
This looks like an old grey sitting inside it.
It does look. It looks exactly like a Graylien with the little almond-shaped eyes.
Yeah.
I would love it if that's the thing, if that's what they're riffing on.
You know who that is? That's Snoke.
Oh, everybody's been Snoke now.
Someone's about to. Yeah, that droid that Ron Howard is with is Snoke.
Interesting is the amount of shooting they're still doing. Bearing in mind it was a 90+% shoot complete. It's still, unless there's a lot of pickups and backtracking being done, which is fine. That's fine.
Yeah, maybe they're taking the opportunity while they've got the
Have they adjusted the date?
Not that I'm aware of.
Have they what? Sorry, Paul.
Adjusted the date?
No.
So
still May next year.
There's pickups then.
I think that they're still in the principal photography window.
Oh, they are?
At the moment, they've only wrapped one of the principal actors, I think, which is Tandy Newton.
Okay.
So the others are still on their principal shoot, and then they're coming back later this year to do pickups.
Well, if you've never got any Tandy Newton shots, it's more important.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
It's very secretive, isn't it?
Maybe she's the alien.
I need to
just found him very attractive.
I need to just mention, I did put this out on, I think it was on Facebook last week. I started watching Fleabag, which is the TV show with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge is going to be playing like a mocap. Well, I think she is, right? She's a performance capture character, isn't she?
I believe so,
official, I think. And I thought, well, I'll check out Fleabag to see what she's like, because I've never seen her in anything before. I know she created that show and she writes on it, and she's the principal, the star of the thing. Yeah. I fell in love with her immediately.
Okay.
She is utterly charming. She is hilarious. The show is not for the faint-hearted. It's very, very mature comedy, but it manages to do what a lot of shows have done before it, but also be very, very original. And I know that seems like that's counterintuitive, but she's like a female version of a cross between Simon Pegg and Ricky Gervais, which for a lot of people will probably be, oh no, but that is a genius combination, especially when you put a beautiful woman in that character type. You know, she's great. She's hilarious. I think she's going to be magic in this.
Okay. I praise indeed.
She's really, really funny, Rob. She is really, really funny. And that show is utter genius.
What's it on?
I downloaded it. It's BBC Two, I believe. I downloaded it from Sky for official channels
or something. Yeah.
Have you got Sky? Are you with Sky, Rob?
I have Now TV. It might be on one of those.
Right, yeah, maybe it's it was a box set on catch up. I got it on there, just downloaded.
Oh, I think I have box sets, so that probably worked.
Yeah, it's very, very good. She's great. She's amazing.
Okay.
So I look forward to seeing what she does. But this little creature in the background here, which I suspect is not Phoebe Waller-Bridge, looks brilliant. But yeah, Paul, that you're question about Tandy Newton, it does make me wonder whether or not she's performance capture, and that's why we haven't seen much of her. Yeah, exactly. So Ron also tweeted out yesterday, went on a Twitter storm. It was a Twitter rampage.
Gold R2.
Yeah.
Amber R2.
First he tweeted out this thing on the right, which is a droid working some sort of a piece of production equipment.
Well, that looks like an R2 arm.
It does look kind of like an appendage, but there's the body behind it there, which I was having trouble seeing that, because when he first said all these droids, I was looking at it thinking, is that like some sort of clamp, part of the production equipment, like maybe a boom arm or something? And then I realised it was actually attached to this body, so it's probably actually more like a
droid arm,
a practical droid.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is part of the filmmaking equipment or part of a set.
No, that's
You think that's part of the set?
isn't that connected to a lighting rig of some kind?
Yeah, I just cannot tell.
It's lots of calculators.
Yeah, that's what the droid's trying to work out, what his overtime
Trying to work out the canderel required for the next scene.
And then we got, later in the day, we got Ron sort of retweeting a droid escapade, which is him with a gold R2 unit, which I love. So indelibly
Better than
Star
him in a
Wars.
gold bikini.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll get no argument from anyone there, I don't think. Really cool, really great stuff. I'm loving what he's doing with this open social feed. Is brilliant.
I think it's
going to be interesting
useful.
when we get a product come our way. Are we going to be seeing any kind of junket material from the original directors at all now, or not? Because they've still got an enormous amount of vested interest in this. They've probably still got some invention in this. They've got a lot of ideas that have gone in before Howard's come along. I'd still be quite keen to hear, what their input before all of this started.
It's a good question. It's a good question. I can't imagine that they're
going to get some post credit, are they?
It does depend on how much of how much of the footage
gets
is
used.
Yeah. That technically it does depend on that.
Well, we know they don't have time for a total reshoot, and we're also fairly aware that an enormous amount of percentage of this film is ready to go. So it'd just be a shame if they were a closed door after the event. That's all.
I think that's the state of play, to be honest, Paul. I think that they're done, and I think that the deal that they cut, where they took the rest of their fees, and I'm sure they were brokered some sort of deal that gave them
post-contractual agreements and all those kind of bits and pieces.
Yeah, because there was possibly some back-end agreement with box office that had to be worked out, but I suspect they're gone, and I don't think that's a bad. I mean, it's not a good thing that those two chaps went by any stretch, but I don't think
probably not allowed to talk about it for a year or two.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a good idea that they are involved in any of the press junkets, because the only question that's ever going to be asked is about
really
their
happened.
exit.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah.
So they're never going to, even if they went and they wanted to beat the drum for Ron Howard's Han Solo film, and they wanted to support everybody and show that everything's cool, they're not going to get past it. No one's going to allow them to say a damn thing. They're always going to want the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
It leaves just a foggy area for us all, doesn't it? That's all.
Yeah. But plus the other thing is, when they've come out and said, it's just a styles clash essentially, and I know that people aren't necessarily willing to believe that, but it doesn't mean it's not true. It may just be there's nothing to tell when it comes to
it. I believe it.
I believe it.
See what you make of this. This has been my theory recently. I suspect that what they did was, when they filmed a scene, they filmed a faithful scene to the script. Then they filmed a scene that allowed the cast to ad lib and make stuff up. And then they filmed
one for
a
you,
scene,
one for me.
And then they did one for them. And I think that because they'd had all these options in the can, that means Ron can come in and say, well, that's the script shot, that's the script shot, that's the script shot, and put the rest of it away. That's what I think that video, that video of him putting out the trash, I think that might have been the subtle message there, that he's not afraid to throw things out. And what he's throwing out are the things that may have been at the top of their lists, their shot list, when they were making their edit.
I still feel like people are reading a little bit too much into the lunch thing.
Yeah,
and I think that was deliberate on his part to kind of get people talking.
Yeah, definitely. But with Kathy, I think her position on this would have been looking at what Lord and Miller had produced and saying, you are going to choose the right material here. And that would have been the clash. It's not about what they didn't capture, it's what they were more inclined to use in an edit. And I think that's probably fair.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, that might have been what broke the whole thing, was them saying, no, we're gonna put together the edit we want to put together.
Yeah.
She would have invited in another creative.
You what, mate?
Yeah. And the invitation to another creative might have been the thing that sort of broke it all, when they said, no, we don't want another person in the edit suite with us overseeing it, whether it's Lawrence or Ron or whoever. Or her, in fact.
Yeah.
She might have that might have been the thing that made them go. But it's done now. They got this thing off the blocks and up and running, and now Ron's come in to see it over the line. I think that it's all looking very promising.
Yeah, it is what it is. So bring it on.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. It gets to the point now where every morning I check my Twitter feed and think, what's he done? I can't wait to see what he's leaked. I forget sometimes that he's on the same clock as us, because I expect things to happen overnight when obviously they're in London. So
yeah,
they're all just sleeping.
They're in Pinewood.
Yes, they are in Pinewood, yeah. Yeah, just up the road.
Isn't it great that they're there? Might be right now. They're doing some really cool stuff. And we don't get to see it for another year or so. And it's like, well, we're really clever. We could get involved. Let us in. We can help.
Yeah.
They need a guy called Pal Pacino, then I'm good.
I heard Ron was talking about one the other day.
Can I interest you in some anti-jokes, Ron? Would you like me to use pork in a contentious way?
A nerf goes into a bar.
And, let's move on from the Han Solo images, which are very, very cool, and move on to Star Wars Episode 9 news, which is just kind of trickling out now. We don't get a great deal, do we? But when stuff happens, it's usually pretty notable like this. So British writer Jack Thorne is coming on to Episode 9. He's a writer on shows such as Shameless, Skins, This Is England here in the UK. And I think that all of those shows have one significant thing in common, and that is that they're very, very dark.
I don't know if they're dark, they're gritty.
Yeah, I mean that they're for mature audiences.
They're real. No, they're not scared to look at the real side of things.
Yeah, it's kind of ugly.
If you get a paper cut across your hand, we'll look at the blood and guts and not be scared of what the real event is, sort of thing. So, I'm all for that, though, to be honest. What bothered me most was when these headlines came out, it was all, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the first things I saw was it was very anti-Trevorrow. By the way, we need a new writer. I was like, well, is that the case again? The guy's still directing it, but the headline came out again was like another Star Wars trip up and so on and so forth. It's like,
that was
crying out loud. Just give us the news and not your embellished headline.
You're not wrong that that was doing the rounds, Paul. I saw
Big
that
time.
too, and it drove me out the wall.
One of them was even relating to his last movie, because the critique on the last film was the book of
Henry.
Oh God. Yeah, the Book of Henry. It's a Book of Henry director strikes again. It's like crying out loud. And this is, I got there's like 2 or 3 paragraphs before the name of the guy, before Jack Thorne was even mentioned, sort of thing. So,
well, this is what we do, right? This is what the New Zealanders call tall poppy syndrome. This is the thing where we celebrate Colin when he comes to the project. How great this is! This indie filmmaker, he had a big hit in Jurassic World. Now he's making Star Wars, and it's like, hang on a minute, don't get too big for your boots. Let's give you a good kick in and see if you can take it.
The media outlets do this with everybody at some point anyway, regardless of. I mean, even outside of Star Wars, there's. I saw this timeline of articles from the same outlet in the space of a year. I can't remember exactly the gist of it, but it was like why everybody's in love with Anne Hathaway, and then a couple of months later, something about Anne Hathaway, and then I think it was like within 6 months, it had gone from that to, everybody's just getting a bit sick of Anne Hathaway now. It's like, that's partly your fault.
Most hated girl in Hollywood at one point, if I recall.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm sure that's not the case. But these outlets they literally manufacture this stuff themselves. They self-author this hogwash.
And when you read through any of these stories, there's not a single quote, there's not a single source. It's
exactly.
Just opinion.
It's like, oh well, we think this is obviously the case. It's like, no, you know very little. Clearly, your guess is as good as mine. But actually, I'd wager it's slightly less than mine because you're a tool.
Well, yeah. I think the three of us are in full agreement that we're just sick of other people's opinion.
Well, that's how you put it. I mean,
that's your opinion.
I'm sick of stories that go off the path and go down hypothetical routes and things. Give us the facts.
I make my entire existence on stories that go off on a tangent, Paul. So I'm careful of how I respond to this particular one.
That is our bread and butter. I'm totally over the beating of Trevorrow, though. He's being treated like a piñata at the moment. And this is if he's going to break open and Porgs are going to drop out. I just had to get another Porg reference in.
Porgs.
But this is why I was saying a couple of weeks ago that I felt it might be a good idea for him to walk away from it because I don't know if he can survive.
You bought into it, Mark. You bought into the hate. It affected you.
It's not. No,
it's
not
none of his grit if he gets on with it, though, mate.
Not at all. I don't have any less faith in Colin Trevorrow than I had at the start. I still think the guy's got what it takes, and I think he's earned his place there. But the knives are out for the guy, and I don't think his career can survive another failure. And I don't think Star Wars can survive another troubled... Well, obviously it can, but it's going to have a very difficult time with yet another troubled production. I think that's going to happen no matter what, though, because like I say, these outlets they need to manufacture this stuff. Regardless, they're going to look for that stuff where it isn't there anyway. So I don't see it as a. And this one has got a very significant thing that's there as well, Rob. It's got the lack of carry. That's going to be that's grist for the mill, isn't it?
But then that's not that's still true no matter what. With it makes no difference to Trevorrow's direction.
No. You're right.
This is the thing. This is what I'm not, and I'm just saying this to you. I'm not saying this. I'm not addressing you when I say this, but like this, this is the reality of it. It's like and ultimately, how well his other film that's not science fiction, Star Wars, does at the box office is actually kind of irrelevant.
Yeah,
because how well he does in a different film is fine. I mean, it's one thing, but it doesn't actually have any bearing on the success or failure of his writing for Star Wars. It makes no odds.
No, and it's also, if you look at a film that's in the same genre, Jurassic World, did gangbusters.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also got proven with that stuff. He's proven that he can take a beloved property and kind of blend the nostalgia with telling a new story, and that's what we want from these new films.
Of course.
I was no fan of that, but he turned it into a dollar machine. So
there you go. Yeah,
but this is the thing.
Something right is there's something happening.
We all hike up people like Brad Pitt and George Clooney up on our shoulders and celebrate them as kings of Hollywood, but they do exactly what Trevorrow's just starting to do now, which is they make one for them and they make one for the system. So they go off and they make an Ocean's 11 and make huge amounts of money, and then they'll go off and they'll make a little indie movie like is it Beside the Sea that Brad Pitt made with Angelina Jolie, which about 3 people saw and they were 2 of them. But that's the thing.
They're not bring a friend.
Apparently they brought one friend between them.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of
where'd they buy him?
It's a thing, Vietnam. It's a thing that they do with the Hollywood system in it. You go off and you make your blockbuster, and that's what he did with Jurassic World.
And that sustains you until while you're making your art piece or whatever, your higher art piece.
Your navel-gazing little indie movies, which, let's remember, that's who George is, the creator of all this. That's who he is at heart. He's a little tinkerer, a little filmmaker, a little experimental filmmaker, a little cinema verite filmmaker.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and makes this huge science fiction blockbuster, and that's all he's remembered for. But everyone forgets the little things like Freiheit, all those little movies, THX 38 4EB, the student film, not the theatrical film.
Sounds a little condescending.
Well, also, you bring up a good point with Clooney as well. Like, beyond the odd kind of joke about it, how many people remember Batman and Robin? Not that many, really.
No, but he had a couple of difficult years.
He did. He had a couple of difficult years at the time, but ultimately, people just kind of went on with their lives. And other Batman movies came out that were just as, that were better, significantly better. And they just got on with it, you know, and he's commented on those movies and said he's sorry they didn't go down so well and that sort of thing. But ultimately, it hasn't destroyed his career.
Oh, goodness me, no.
No.
In fact, immediately after that film, that disastrous movie, which was disastrous for everybody involved, he made Three Kings.
There you go.
Which is, I think, a fantastic film. Very much an indie film, very much an indie director.
Yeah.
And very edgy and very daring. And then he comes back and he makes the Oceans movies. And then he goes
we're basically saying.
More interestingly, he made Good Night and Good Luck.
Oh, what a film.
Powerful.
Which is beyond phenomenal.
And he directed it too. Sorry, Rob.
What we're basically saying, clickbait outlets, is you won't win.
Yeah.
No. But unfortunately, do to a degree, because they rely on Mr. and Mrs. Smith that read, the tabloid daily, and they get suckered into that.
Respect, that's true.
That still grinds me so much. It's like, grow an IQ, go and read something else, please. That sort of thing. But I'm sorry, but stop reading the damn things, Rob.
There's no way those people would be listening.
Stop reading. Get an IQ and stop reading. Okay.
Yeah.
There's too much coal. Hey.
The problem Trevorrow's got at the moment is he doesn't have the body of work for this pattern to be readily identifiable. He hasn't done enough yet.
There is that. Yeah.
In 10 years,
but he
people will be able to look
get
back
out of the park with Jurassic World.
He did, and I suspect he'll do the same with Star Wars.
I do understand. I can see how they would use that as that's one film, and these are facts. That's how numbers work. But I can see how they could kind of make that case, but I don't necessarily. We're clearly giving him more credit than that, and also he does have to help him a story group. Who will no doubt be available and be willing to assist, because ultimately, it's not just one dude writing it. This is not an indie film. It's not one dude writing it, producing it, directing it, writing the theme tune, singing the theme tune. He's got a massive corporate machine behind him full of very talented people who can help him and support him and, give him a kind of, help him bounce ideas around. They can help him, they can kind of review stuff. They'll have a kind of, obviously, a story group has to sign off, to sort of sign off on certain things. I guess, or they help to sort of tie that stuff together.
I hit on this earlier on this week, or was it today? I have no idea. On a Kessel Run about what this means with Jack Thorne coming in and what it means about the lack of connectivity between The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Episode 9, Porgs, Revenge of the Porgs. Is that something to be concerned about? Because you've got these films are acting like little pods on their own now. Like a writer and a director coming, like Lawrence and JJ. Michael aren't got the ball rolling, but they came in and took over and they shaped The Force Awakens. They made The Force Awakens. They left things hanging. They had no idea how they would resolve. And then Ryan came in and made his movie that he wrote on his own.
Yep.
Clearly with the story group there for input, so that he knew that he wasn't going to break canon anywhere. Yeah. And, he's written that film and he's directed that film on his own. He will end that film and he has had no input, zero input into 9. Yeah. He didn't even write a treatment. He clarified that this week. He sent out a tweet saying, I hadn't done a treatment on 9. So he's picked up the loose threads from JJ and Lawrence. He's made sense of them. Obviously, he went back when that film was wrapping up and said, can you do this and can you do that? Just so it sets a stage for him for Last Jedi. And Colin's done the same with Ryan. He said, could you do this? Could you pick up this footage for me or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they're all playing the ball where it lays now. There's no singular vision tying those things together, whereas George, on both trilogies, like it or not, he had that singular vision that ran through it, right? With the prequels, maybe it was less successful than the OT, but the OT, you could say, had a lot more retcons as he was going, but there was that singular vision at the heart of it, regardless of how many different producers or directors those projects had. And I wonder now whether or not this sort of very insular way of making these separate films is something to be worried about, or are the story group that beating heart that runs through?
I think you've just answered the question with exactly what I was about to say, which is the story group is there to, that is their job.
They are.
If they have one job, that is it.
One, you know, many are one. Simple as.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
On a tangent, I mean, I've already posted this information on another site, which I'll talk about later. But I don't know if you heard that. Apparently, depending on what kind of media you read, that the composer for Blade Runner 2049 was announced today.
Oh, really? Who is it?
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's not true. It's completely not true. You know, Johan Johansson's been working on the 2049 soundtrack for months.
Okay.
But the one issue is Johan Johansson quite openly said, "Look, the whole Vangelis ideal.
Yeah.
You know, in the story you've given me and the work I've given you, and there's a whole ton. He's written a whole ton of stuff for this, but that whole Vangelis, that last little Vangelis feather, if you like, they all spoke about it. They're like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? So what do? They ask Hans Zimmer for a little bit of assistance in this last thread. Yeah. And there's already two composers acting on this. Yeah, but I've only been really following Johansson's work on it, obviously. So yesterday, Zimmer has been announced as assisting Johan Johansson in this thing. So, but what did the press print? At last, a composer is chosen. He's like, for crying out loud, that's not what happened at all. Johansson is the main key in this entire composition that's going to be coming our way.
Yep.
But they wanted this little bit more Vangelis sort of stretch to it, a little bit of 80s push in there somewhere. Yeah. And Zimmer's been pulled in to apply that. But no, that's not what people are going to understand from it. And it's like, no. What you got to understand is, okay, let's not worry about Zimmer. Let's not worry about Johansson. Let's just worry about the idea that we're getting a soundtrack for our product at the end of the day. Yeah. And many heads become one, and let's go with it from that point. But it's all, from a headline point of view, these things get so embellished, don't they?
That's as far as people read a lot of the time, isn't it?
Unfortunately, yeah, it is. It is. And it bores me to tears sometimes because we get, if we're lucky, we get 60% of the fact. 60, if we're lucky. Anyway, that's my rant over. I just wanted to push film score stuff your way.
I don't know. It's this is a tricky one. I think moving forward, the way we are now with Star Wars, with the story group, if they are the,
they're waiting for headline after headline as well now, aren't they? So, who else has fallen over?
I did. I fell over earlier. No tears.
Well, there you go. That's part 10 ruined.
Big boy. Okay, shall we wrap this thing up then? So there you go, Jack Thorne. Welcome onto a Star Wars project. I'm sure what you do will be wonderful, even if it is a tad dark.
Alongside Trevorrow.
Yeah, he's only going to build on what Trevorrow's put there. And it doesn't mean that Trevorrow's writing was subpar. Just
I'm sure as a team it's going to be great.
Lee Brackett wrote Empire Strikes Back, and apparently that was like super, super dark when Lawrence and then George and then Lawrence, whatever you want to believe, came on board and made some changes to Lee Brackett's script. But apparently that.
I mean, to be honest, without us, Mark is really quite inert.
No, you're right. You get no argument from me. One other thing I need to point out as well, something I've popped into the show notes here, when you download them, it says tweet about Ron by clicking here. It's just a little URL tweet. If you click on that, it will open up.
Trying to.
You can't. It will open up a tweet in your Twitter account and you can just send. You can add to it whatever you want, change it as much as you want, but there's a hashtag in there, in Ron we trust, because we do. I'm really into these URL tweet things at the moment. They're really useful. I'm going to pass one along to Stephen for his new project.
Oh.
Oh, Steve, sorry.
Habitats. Okay, right, let's wrap this up. So thank you for listening to Talk Star Wars again this week, and thank you to everyone that's joined us and left the 5-star reviews and become a VIP and all that great stuff. It's very exciting. And talking to 5-star reviews, don't forget that you can head over to iTunes and take advantage of our Ron Burgundy guarantee. So whatever you write in a 5-star review, we'll read, as long as it's clean. So if you want to promote something like your own blog or a podcast, that's the place to do it, like Riley did this week. And you can email us your questions and comments to talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on one of our many social platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and many more. With that said, gentlemen, where can people find you between shows?
You will find me at Moviescore News on Twitter. You will find me at Moviescore News on Facebook, and you will find me on moviescorenews.com on the interweb.
Nice.
Nicely done. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision, and you can find everything else I do that's not Talk Star Wars related at emotionally14.com, emotionally14 on Twitter, emotionally14 on Facebook, emotionally14 on YouTube. You get the idea.
And on it goes.
Have you got a site?
Yeah, it's in there.
You can find Stephen on Twitter at Stephen_where, and you can find him on YouTube if you just look for Wild About Nature. You can find everything I do at talkstarwars.co.uk and now also on the nerdroom.net. And I'm on Twitter at talkstarwars. Yeah, I just put a post up in on Tim's site this week, and I have another one planned as well. It's just
don't downplay it. You're syndicated now, buddy.
They're non-Star Wars shaped. They're just where I go to do other things.
Okay. So geeky stuff that's like, okay, interesting.
Not games. Not games related.
All right.
But it is geeky stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, find me there. Obviously.
Okay, cool.
All right, we're going to leave you there. Head over to the StarWarsCommonwealth.com as well. You'll find us there alongside our partners at Tumbling Saber, Generation X-Wing, Rogue Squadron, the Sky Hoppers Podcast, and Nerd Room. Those guys I mentioned just a moment ago. And the new Kids on the Block, San Diego Sabers. Stick around here, a promo for them. Are we done? Let's get out of it.
I think we're done.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Turtles.
Talk Star Wars is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Find us at StarWarsCommonwealth.com alongside
the Tumbling Saber Podcast,
the Generation X-Wing Podcast,
the TSW Roundtable,
the Skyhoppers Podcast,
and the Nerd Room Podcast.
Head to StarWarsCommonwealth.com. Take your first steps to a larger world.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.